I'm Spider-Man. That was fun.
Welcome back, true believers and all you spectacular Spidey fans, to a very exciting video for you today pertaining to, yet again, another Spider-Man the New Animated Series discussion topic. Of course, if you are aware, recently it was the 18-year anniversary of the show, of it becoming legal officially within the last couple days, which is very exciting. Seeing the show and all of its fans kind of reminisce about what it was and what it meant for specifically the Raimi films, kind of continuing and expanding upon the first movie into an animated format, but also showcasing Spider-Man as a character in a more darker and more mature realm that wasn't necessarily displayed before in terms of animation and storytelling. And sadly, the fact of the matter is the show was canceled, and we have not received an official Season 2 from its creators either at MTV, Sony, or Mainframe Studios, who animated the show in its entirety, even though they did have a script plan and did have a overall layout for what they wanted to actually make Season 2 into for its main story. But there is a light at the end of this tunnel, because we do have amazing creators here today that I'm lucky enough to be able to talk to, who are actually making their own fan-made Season 2 of Spider-Man the New Animated Series. I am, in fact, joined today by Mr. T, Mystical, and Black G, who are actually working directly on the fan-made Season 2 of Spider-Man TNAS. So, what is up, guys? How you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good.
I got
Pretty TNAS-y, feeling like TNAS.
yeah, we good.
Sort of.
Really nervous.
Very cool. Very rockin'. And it's very just awesome to see just you guys go out of your way to make a Season 2 of this show. Not, Season 3 of Spectacular, not even a Season 2 of Spider-Man Unlimited, which is another show that got canceled, sadly, back in the day in the late 90s, but specifically for this series, Spider-Man the New Animated Series in 2003. So I thought it'd be cool just to kind of get your overall background about your viewpoints on the show and what it means to you, and how you guys maybe even were introduced to it back when it first released in 2003, and seeing how far it's come now, and you guys going out your way to actually continue the story that the show ended off with from Season 1.
So, TNAS is like a really special show to me. It's just very underrated at that. I know a lot of people love Spectacular, I can definitely see why. But TNAS is just one of the, it's the way I got introduced to the character, and it's really special to me. And I've loved TNAS ever since I was a kid, and it's just been so much fun watching it. And, just wanting to do a Season 2 and being successful at making one is just so awesome.
Well, my history with TNAS is something funny. I update textures of Spider-Man games, and sometimes with my coworker, my good friend, he introduced me to the series. He told me repeated times, bro, you have to watch TNAS, it's a nice show. Oh man, I love TNAS, and I give it a chance, and I really say it was a good show, and I really like it, but I was like, give me more, and I never got more. And when I see this project, I was like, man, I have to go on, and I'm here right now. I'm really happy with all we got now for now.
Yeah, I saw one of Mr. T's posts on Twitter, and it looked really good. It was the PS4 suit modded into Shattered Dimension. I was like, oh, this is great. And he DM'd me asking to make a TNAS model that was actually really accurate, and it looked good. And here he is now, animating. Definitely making good development with the series.
Yeah, I do the first like official model of the project. Well, now we are here with this new boy. We specifically wanted to show it to you. I don't know how to animate. I was like for 3 months learning just for this project, and I really like it, and I really want to do more for this because I love it. I'm not a really fan of the series like Mystical, who is a really good fan. But I'm in love with this project, and I'm in love with all the people who are working on it. And I hope we can finally finish it soon.
Yeah.
Okay, so when I was a kid, I was like, I was watching the '90s cartoon, and I really liked it, right? So I was like, "Yo, Dad, I need that. I need the show on DVD." So I was like, "Okay, son." And then he brought me TNS. I was like, "What is this?" But when I watched it, it was like really cool because it was like edgy and stuff. So I was like, "Damn." But now, when I grew up and I watched it again, I was like, "Damn, this is probably like the most unique Spider-Man show." I mean, I know Unlimited exists, but like Unlimited is like not even Spider-Man, you know what I mean? It's like more a weird alternate reality. It's not like, it's not comic accurate. But anyway, so I watched it, I was like, damn, that's unique. And I just like the writing. I like the dynamic of like Harry and MJ. I feel like that was never done in the comics before. They were like actual best friends in the show. And yeah, I just think, the use of kind of more underrated villains was interesting. And yeah.
I first watched it pretty early on. I think pretty close to when it came out after the Raimi movies. So that was my first time watching it, and I thought it was awesome as a kid. I still need to rewatch it to jog my memory a bit, but it's an awesome show.
So, knowing how much the show means to all of you, and me specifically, of course, I'm a huge fan of it, even though right behind me is a poster of the second Sam Raimi Spider-Man movie. The first one is actually my favorite Spider-Man film of all time, and it's so cool how the show further expands upon the Raimi lore while doing things that are original in the sense of kind of taking inspiration from the Ultimate Comics and the movies, while not feeling the need to kind of feel shackled amongst the comic lore, specifically because we get new characters in the show. We get Shikata, Turbojet, Pterodax, the Gaines twins, who I do not like in the slightest, specifically what happens near the finale of the show, but we do get a lot of cool, new, and unique interpretations that add onto Spider-Man lore. One of my favorites in particular is Indira Daimonji, Indy, aka the best character in the whole show. Fight me if anyone disagrees, but no. But for this show, and what you guys are doing for Season 2, do you have any new, fresh takes that you felt like you wanted to implement for Spider-Man's character, or his growing cast, or the world itself of this iteration of Spider-Man's universe? Or how did you guys want to approach it going forward with your own spin on it?
I would say it's gonna be almost kind of like an entirely different show, but like at the same time, it's gonna have like the tone and like the the main themes of the show, or like the theme and the vibe of it. You know what I mean? Like I feel like that's what's gonna happen. But like we're gonna introduce new villains, and it's gonna be a bit more different. You know what I mean?
I think all of our designs are going to be very original because the Beetle design, the Shocker design, and the Mysterio design, they all look very different from their comic book versions, and we didn't really, at least our concept artist didn't really want comic booky versions, so he just like kind of made his own design, and it looked really cool.
I think you guys will like the facial animation because we'll be doing motion capture.
Wow, so the technology, which is very interesting that you mentioned motion capture, that's like more advanced compared to, I would say, what they did back for Mainframe in 2003, because back then they didn't have the technology that we now have living in 2021, where they used, keyframe hand art and CG animation mixed with cell shade art styling. But you guys are taking it up a notch, which is really, really cool and innovative in the way that 3D animation handles certain characters in these types of animated cartoons, which is why a lot of people prefer Spectacular Spider-Man, from what I've seen just among some of my comments and just the general community's feedback when talking about the show, is that they seem like they never could get into it because of the show's art style. But there's a plethora of other animated cartoons out there that are 3D that I think are excellent, like Transformers Prime. If any of you guys have seen that show is excellent with how it handles its 3D animation for those crazy, larger-than-life characters. And I definitely think that for Spider-Man, one of the reasons why I think it stands out more than these other Spider-Man shows, and again, not to diss Spectacular or the 90s show, but they do sometimes, at least for the 90s show in particular, reuse some of the animations. And granted, we do see that a little bit in the new animated series, but what I love about it is that you don't get to see Spider-Man move and swing and act in these ways that were kind of restricted from 2D or kind of, more hand-drawn style of animation. And then we kind of get those more cinematic style movements within this show because of the CG and art style that they went with to kind of bring Spider-Man to life for a new era. I mean, that was the first Spider-Man cartoon to release in the 21st century, funny enough, in 2003, where the last one was the Spider-Man Unlimited in 1999. So having it be kind of that blueprint for where the cartoon spectrum can go for Spider-Man was kind of setting the bar. And now you guys are going even further with kind of improving it from your own perspective, and also on a smaller budget compared to like a larger studio like Mainframe. So what you guys managed to accomplish is very impressive, to say the least, based on everything I've seen so far, and what you're showing me now just looks excellent. So moving on from that, for the show itself, knowing how important the characters are, not just the swinging and the fighting and the cool, 3D cell shading art style, but mainly for the characters that the show is focusing on, with Peter, Mary Jane, Harry, and the villains and the wider supporting cast. You guys are forming your own crew and your own voice cast. That's, of course, not Neil and Lisa Loeb and Ian Ziering from the main show, but you forming your own talent here. Did you guys want to mainly take inspiration from the show and kind of mimic what they did? Or did you want to kind of give it your own spice of life and kind of add new flavor to it compared to what we've seen in the past?
I feel like we wanted both, like mainly taking some from the original and also like keeping some of their actual voice in it, just to, like, make their own whole memorable voice acting. It's pretty much just the original. We want them to sound close enough to the original while also keeping some of them in it, which kind of like makes a more memorable cast. Like, oh, he didn't just try to sound like Neil. He also put in himself, just to, like,
Yeah, I'll just say that the voice acting and animation and all that, it's gonna be very different from the original, especially with animation and like the style. We can't really exactly mimic the original just because the technology is, completely different. So with that, we're trying to make it kind of our own unique art style. It kind of reminds me of Zelda Breath of the Wild, what we're trying to do with, we're doing smears and other cool effects like that the original show didn't really take advantage of.
It's pretty much trying to keep TNAS's art style while also getting in a little bit of our vibe. But yeah, we're doing that. I think it's going to be really cool, especially for action scenes, making it look much smoother than everything.
We are doing what we can because we are not official. This is not official series, but we are not too much people, but we really wanted to do this, and we're gonna do our best.
At the end of the day, this is a fan project. It's not official. It's not coming to TVs near you. It's just coming to YouTube. It's just a fan project. Everyone kind of needs to chill out if something doesn't really go right, because at the end of the day, it's not really official. It's just,
If anything, I would think that they are flattered to see, like I was saying in the beginning of the video, that it's cool that a show 18 years now old that isn't really seen as a big, notable entry point in Spider-Man and animation. When most people think of Spider-Man cartoons, they think of Spectacular, the 90s show, and even recently, sadly, my least favorite, the Marvel Spider-Man show on Disney XD. But seeing that there's these entry points in Spider-Man within animation that have captivated us as fans, and seeing you guys take that step to make something that's so special from your own passion and your own hard work, I think is very admirable and very impressive to see that you guys go this length to make it feel like it's on par with the same quality of a big budget animation studio. And you guys are just doing this out of your own pocket, out of your own free time, not affiliated again with Sony or Mainframe, but just from the bottom of your hearts. And that's what I love to see, just as Spider-Man fans being in love with the character and the stories that can be told with him. And this particular series, I think, is a very interesting way on how to captivate viewers and the character of Spider-Man in new, interesting ways. I think that's really, really exciting to see. I would say also from you all personally, what's your favorite element of the show or favorite episode? Is it with the soundtrack, or the way on how the art style looks, or some of the voice acting, like what Black G was saying, or anything pertaining to the way on how they incorporated the Raimi movies, kind of adding and expanding upon that universe in particular? Or what about the show for any of you stands out the most?
Honestly, it's just the art style and the music, because the music is just so bizarre for a Spider-Man show, and it's actually really good. surprisingly. John Digweed is just a really good composer. The art style was really good too, considering that we haven't really seen too many 3D interpretations of Spider-Man shows. And having this one with a unique art style is just amazing. I hope the new Disney show that's 3D kind of adapts to TNAS. It probably won't, but like at least does something that TNAS did. It'd be cool.
My personal favorite episode of the show is the Electro episode, not the first one, not the party, but like the second one. I liked it because it was like it wasn't afraid to like be dark and stuff, and it was just like really well written. And you know, I think honestly, like TNS Electro is probably the best interpretation of Electro ever. Let me just lay it out. But like, yeah, I just think I think the writing is pretty good. But like I think I agree with Dalen. I mean, I think the art style is pretty good, and the music. I mean, the music was like, you know, it was pretty trendy for the time. You know what I mean? Like, you know, it was like techno and electronic. It was pretty trendy for the time. But like, yeah, I think it suited the show. It just added like, it kind of goes with the atmosphere and the vibe of it. And yeah, I just like I just really like the writing of the show. I like the dynamic of, you know, like I said earlier, Harry, Peter, and MJ. You know, I don't think we've seen that much in the comics or movies. I think only the show kind of made them be, you know, real best friends. But yeah,
this is probably the only interpretation where Harry's actually kind of chill with Peter, because his whole father thing, in like, you know, he's kind of chill with Peter. He's not like Harry in Spider-Man 2 saying that, oh yeah, if you ever know who he is, can you tell me, or something like that. Harry's actually kind of chill with Peter, even hating Spider-Man. I feel like growing up, I've loved it a lot better. I mean, as a kid, I liked it, but like growing up and seeing it, it's really good. Having the mature tone is just... I wish they can do that with newer Spider-Man shows. I wish.
It gave me a lot of Ultimate Spider-Man video game vibes, which is why I got into it.
I was 4 years old when the first Sam Raimi Spider-Man movie came out in 2002, and then, you know, my dad obviously kind of introduced me to this show because he just brought home a DVD one night and say, hey, Evan, it's Spider-Man, just like the movie you saw. It'll be just as fun and totally not horror-themed or anything dark or anything like that because it's Spider-Man. I'm like, yeah, cool. Being a 4-year-old not knowing anything, yeah, let's go for it. And then all of a sudden, yeah, you see like crazy decapitation and sex jokes and drug references. Like, wow, okay, this is very different. But at the time, I literally didn't process it at all because I was so young. But now, growing up more, I totally agree with what you said, Mystical, is that yes, there's a very, very odd lack of maturity, or at the very least, serious tones implemented within recent Spider-Man cartoons. And granted, sadly, that's because of this partnership and the current standing with Spider-Man and his rights with Disney, and them owning the broadcasting / television / cartoon rights to make Spider-Man in these shows. And, you know, not to discredit if you're a fan of the Marvel Spider-Man show and Disney XD or even Ultimate Spider-Man, both have their appeals to some people, but I think for me specifically, and I'm sure a majority of you guys here, and maybe some of you watching, that we prefer kind of the more grounded, thematically realistic tone of Spider-Man narratives that can be implemented, not just for a cartoon, but just for a Spider-Man in general. It doesn't even matter if it's live action or animated or in a video game. It just matters if the realistic issues that people can go through in their own lives connects directly to the character of Spider-Man. And the way on how the show took risks by advertising it to a more mature, kind of older audience, unintended for kids, obviously, but still having that relatability for a Peter Parker in college while dealing with such issues as death and grief and angst and sometimes depression even, and loss and guilt and all these relatable issues that we can all deal with on our own levels, and still having it relate to Spider-Man in a way that felt new and fresh for this medium of animation, I think is very, very impressive to see. And granted, we kind of got something like that recently. I can't believe it took so long for us to get something like that recently, but with Into the Spider-Verse in 2018, kind of hopefully going back to that format of, yes, this is a more, you know, realistic themed Spider-Man tone, even though there are multiple Spider-Men in that film, but you still get that heartfelt narrative with Miles and his parents, and also Peter, and how he deals with MJ, and even Spider-Gwen, and the loss with her Peter, and still have it for that animated 3D format while keeping it, I guess, appealing to kids, but still telling a more mature-ish, serious-ish story. And that's what I think I look for specifically in these Spider-Man cartoons and games and movies, and that's what I really drew myself towards this show with, because it wasn't afraid to do something different and also possibly ostracizing for the younger kids. Like, this is not for your grandma's Spider-Man, this isn't your toddler's Spider-Man, this is MTV's Spider-Man, because we're the cool kids on the block, because MTV was super hit back in the day for some reason, airing a Spider-Man show of all things. But yes, and you guys carrying on that legacy, I think is very, very special, and I'm very just happy to be able to kind of learn more about your process on how you're making it, and also seeing you guys honor the legacy of the show and the series going forward with your own interpretation of it, which is cool. So last question, I would say for you guys is, what do you have to say to the fans of Spider-Man, just the show, who are going to be end up watching your creation by the time it's finished with production and crafting it to the best of its possible outcome, which I'm sure it's going to be great by the time you're finished. But for the people who are going to end up watching it, what platform are we able to watch it on, by the way? And just any final words to the people who are looking forward to seeing more of this universe be expanded through your eyes?
I got a note to the fans from just reading the script. Don't expect like the first half of the season to be, oh yeah, it's all happy, you know, they're all best friends, you know. There's all this dark stuff that goes on, and if you don't like dark stuff, I don't recommend watching, because there's a lot of stuff going on. It's really creepy. It'll be available on my YouTube channel, estimating December 3rd.
At the end of the day, we're just some guys animating on Blender to make something that we're proud of in a continuous series that we love. So we appreciate everyone that has been staying tuned and supporting the project.
You know, the show is gonna be lit. All right, it's gonna be lit. The episodes are gonna be lit. But yeah, I mean, what you said, you know, Mystical, what you said, like, I mean, if you think about it, like every end, almost like most endings of the episodes from like the original show are like depressing. They end on like a depressing note, like fucking the first episode, you know, I mean, technically not the first episode, but like the first episode that aired, you know, the Electro episode. I mean, the guy dies at the end. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I'm pretty proud of what we made so far. I mean, like we wrote episode 1 and 2, and 3 is actually almost done. But
I can only say we are doing our best in this, and we are really excited for what's going on right now and what's gonna be this project we have. We are not so much mastered in the animation and the script and everything, but we are doing our best because we love the show, we love the character, we love everything of them. Spider-Man means something too much important for me, and I really want to give him justice, at least here. And I hope we can give everyone justice here. Give everyone a good show, and they can really like this, because we are doing our best.
And with all that said, everyone, that is the video that I have for you today. I want to give a huge shout out and massive thank you to Mr. T, Mystical XS, Black G, and Cypher for joining me today, discussing more about this and their amazing fan-made Season 2 for Spider-Man, the new animated series, in depth. I will be sure to leave all of their links in the description below, their Twitter page, their YouTube channels, I'm sure their Instagram accounts, and everything else that you can hopefully support them on, and just give them as much backing as you possibly can. Just showing them your love would greatly mean the world to them. And fellow Spider-Man TNAS fans like myself, I'm very excited to learn more and see more about your guys' show once it's finished, and I can't wait to see how it'll be received by the time you guys release it, which I'm sure will be to huge acclaim from the community at large, from the TNAS fans out there, because we are small, I will admit. It's not as a big group as compared to Spectacular or some of the games like Spider-Man PS4 or even the comics, for example. This is a very obscure show, I will admit, but seeing that there are fans out there like yourselves who are amazing enough to keep it going and keep, you know, putting your own spin on things while honoring what happened in the past and embracing the future with your own unique twist is very cool and also inspiring, I would say, to any other fans out there who may want to try and do some fan work, whether that's for a show, a comic, a movie. Go do it. Get some of your friends if you're interested in the same thing and just go for it, because you all share the same passion. It's clearly paying off, and it's definitely going to pay off in the long run for sure by the time you guys release it. So I can't wait. Hopefully you guys watching can't wait either. Be sure to leave a like on the video and subscribe to the channel if you did enjoy and want to learn more about the show from them. Again, follow all of them on social media because they are the best, and I'm sure that they definitely go and hang out with parties with the X-Men, just like Peter Parker would in his spare time as well. So with all that said, everyone, thank you all so much for watching. Stay spectacular, Spidey fans. Peace out.